Big Steve.
Shout out Michael Bisbin. Shout out to the viewers. The Big Brand MMA is back. We're breaking down UFC Vancouver, Rene the Ritter versus Brandon Allen. It's been a while, right? We're trying to make some money on this card, top to bottom. I just had a newborn son, so I haven't done maybe 3-4 podcasts, but we're back now. I've still been betting. I've been betting a bit average, to be honest, but that happens. $800 up for the month. We've got 2 more weeks to kind of smash it out, get some good profit. I was really close to 20K for the year, which was my bare minimum, and I had November and December to kind of get close to 30K, but I dropped off, so just need to lock in a little bit. Then White Contender Series just finished on $300, half a unit. Pretty short, but it is what it is. It was a turbulent season. I had 1,200, then lost it all on one crazy episode, then brought it back up to 800, and then finished on 300, made $95. So it is what it is. This time last year, I had lost almost my whole bankroll, so doing much better. So yeah, let's get into it. I do have one bet. If you're a regular listener of the show, you will know that I lock in my bets closer to the day of the fights or on the day. So just listen out to my leans. And if you stay till the end, I have 2 KSW bets. I've been focusing on regionals, so I'll give you the KSW bets and I'll give you my leans. Some good leans. All right, let's get into it. Melissa Croden, Tanara Lisboa. I'm not really interested on this fight from a betting perspective. It's pick'em now. A lot of money came in on Croden. That seemed to be like the side, right? Both these ladies are old, 34. Lisboa has a striking background, but she's good with takedowns. But she can also be taken down herself, and she's a bit of a fish off her back. I don't really see Croden doing that much, although she had a few takedowns versus Elena in LFA. Yeah, personally, gun to my head, I would have to play Croden. She just seems to have more power, more finishing upside. And, Tanara Lisboa, who wins over Oliveira and Jessica Rose Clark. And she's been finished before. I don't know. I'll have to dig deep into this fight at Pick'em to find an edge, and I'm just not interested in that. So let's move on. Azamat Bukaev, Yusri Balguri. So they're really adamant on making this fight. Azamat was booked against Yusri a couple of times. So, yeah, Azamat is a pretty good fighter, honestly. He's well-rounded. His last loss was to Heretic, right? Rafael Heretic, who's the current KSW light heavyweight champion, right? He's fighting this week, defending his belt. And he was winning that fight 2-0, and then he got hurt and finished with a scarf hold in round 3. So not a bad loss. And, since then, he became the LFA champion, got into the UFC, and knocked out 2 guys back-to-back, Zachary Reese and Loda. Ultimately, he should be the favorite. He's got the power, physicality, he's in his prime, and he's got the grappling. Whereas Yusri Balguri, he's 33. He trains at a good camp, but he just doesn't have that one-touch KO power that I would want from a world-class kickboxer, like his training partner Pereira, for example. So I wouldn't really be parlaying Azamat. I thought I would like the under 1.5 rounds here. At first glance, it was plus 140. Azamat finished both his UFC guys in under 1.5 rounds, and finished Chauncey Foxworth, his last LFA fight, in round 2. So still kind of close to 1.5 rounds. He dropped him in round 1. I don't know. Balgui seems kind of durable. He lost the decision to Tulio, and he's not really knocking out any good guys. So I think this goes over. I think it's, Bukaev might get hit with something against the taller, longer Yosri and doesn't like it, and then he just kind of grinds on him, and it just goes over into looking more like the fight, like his fights in LFA, more grinding, more boring pace. So not interested in anything at the moment. I wouldn't be parlaying, old mate, and I'm not really interested in a dog shot on this one-dimensional kickboxer. Alrighty, let's move on. Stephanie Luciano versus Ravena Oliveira. We just spoke about Oliveira. She made a debut against Tanara Lisboa. She lost. I don't really know why she's in the UFC. If this was a bantamweight, it would make more sense. The division is dead. It needs talent, but this is strawweight, like the most competitive division, and Oliveira is 28. She's not even the prospect. Luciano is the prospect in this fight. So, yeah, Luciano should win. I really don't advocate on parlaying low women's MMA. But honestly, Luciana, I think Talita Alencar is better than Oliveira. She has a high pedigree in jiu-jitsu. She's got better wrestling. She's more explosive. She's improved her striking. We saw her just rinse Demopoulos. And Luciano beat her once, 10-8 her the second time. Oliveira, I don't know what she's good at. She had a couple of takedowns against Lisboa, but got reversed. She was finished by an Ezekiel choke in one of her losses, and all these women are cab drivers. Right, just 28 years old. I just don't know what her ceiling is. There's nothing there. Actually, no, she was. She fought a bantamweight versus Lisboa. Now she's dropping down to strawweight. Wow, that's a big drop. I completely missed that, but who cares about this fight? Yeah, just all cabbies. Honestly, there's one play here. I honestly think Luciano might be able to finish her. There's one play here on Bet365 plus minus 3.5 handicap for Luciano is Pick'em. Right, if she finishes her, that you cash that. If she gets taken down and works her way up and outstrikes her like she did to Talita Alencar, that's she can get a 30-27, 29-28, or 229-28, or 130-27. If she gets a 10-8 in round 3, she 30-27 Alencar in the second fight. Losing a split to Sam Hughes is just whatever. Just a whole different level of fighter. So, but yeah, now that I'm seeing the Oliveira drop down 2 weight classes, we'll see. But maybe I'm looking too much into it. MMA guy, Bukayev, Luciano, pick him. I don't know. I got a weird feeling about Bukayev. I've seen Bukayev hurt a lot. There's red flags on his tape. But Luciano, yeah. If you're willing to go against the mold and play low women's MMA, parlay it, then sure. We'll see. I'll keep an eye out for some parlay pieces. Jake, congrats on the one, Steve. I'll be at this event live. What are your bets? I'll make sure they hit. No worries, Jake. I will let you know. Tune into the show. MMA guy, I played her minus 3.5. There you go. Keep telling me, MMA guy. You're not in the Discord, but you still find ways to tell me. Alrighty. Let's move on to hopefully bigger and better fights. Not really. Kyle Prepelic versus Drew Dober. So Drew Dober's getting a massive step down. Kyle Prepelic, 36 years of age. Honestly, Drew Dober is beyond washed. Yeah, look at his record. Lost 4 of the last 5, lost 6 of the last 10. Sure, there's Makachev on there and Gene Silva, but there's also losses to Brad Riddell, who retired not long after that. He was eating shit to Bobby Green. He was eating shit to McKenney. And basically, a lot of his wins is just an iron chin saving him and great power. Right, so could I save him here? Probably. Prepelic does hit hard, but he doesn't hit as hard as Drew Dober. He's never been knocked out. I think he can survive, but ultimately, I feel like Drew Dober could edge this with more power, more durability. But yeah, he's not a good minute winner. And end of the day, if Kyle Prepelic didn't have losses to Shane Campbell and Austin Hubbard, just other strikers that just outstruck him and took him to a decision win, then they'll be more likely to play him. But ultimately, there's one play that I don't mind here. I don't mind the over. So the over 1.5 rounds is completely chalked, which makes sense, right? I think this goes over. Even in some of old mate's KOs, Drew Dober's, he's extending. So I don't mind the over 2.5 rounds, plus 210, $2.10. Right? I feel like this is a Drew Dober decision. If you're feeling brave, Kyle Prepelic decision. What is that? $8. Wow. I just played the over 2.5, or maybe starts round 3. Yeah, that's where you're at. I don't think Prepelic is the type of guy to knock out Dober, and Prepelic's never been knocked out. Dober does hit different, but I don't know. I need to look into it. But that's what I like. I like the over 2.5 rounds here. Alrighty. I wouldn't really play the under 1.5 as a chalky bet because the KO could very well happen early. So it's like if you're taking a risk, take a risk the yields, better return, plus money. Alrighty, Denny Barlow versus Jordan Santos. Interesting fight. Barlow moving up to middleweight, and I guess it makes sense because he missed weight once, and he's bigger. He's bigger than Jordan. He is 6'2", 79-inch reach. He's got almost 4 inches of reach and 2 inches in height. And Santos doesn't look that big. Ultimately, I don't think Santos is good at all. I think he's basically like a Brazilian Jose Medina. I think beating Will Curry, he has the perfect archetype to beat Will Curry. He's only good at takedown defense, get-ups, and volume. And, Will Curry basically has no plan B. He gassed out in 5 minutes. And even then, Jordan Santos couldn't KO him. He also couldn't even hurt Ozzy Diaz. Worst chin in the game. So this is Danny Barlow's fight to lose. I wouldn't really be laying the chalk on Danny Barlow because he is much lower in terms of volume and output. Jordan Santos will throw. I think Barlow can KO him. What I will say is this under 1.5 rounds, if you're playing this, don't do it. It's basically under 2.5 rounds, $1.66. What is that, like 60, 65%? And it's all correlated with Barlow knocking him out. Right? Santos could knock out Curry, could knock out Ozzy Diaz, and you're getting mine at $1.62. When you can just play, if you think the fight's going to finish, you can just play Danny Barlow KO, $2.30. So no brainer if you think that. So that kind of stuck out to me. I do feel like Barlow should get some moments. He should crack Santos. Santos is there to be hit. He was hurt by Ozzy Diaz in round 3, but he did show insane recovery. I do think Diaz does hit hard as well. He wasn't light heavyweight in the past. So maybe it's one of those ones where Barlow just drops him a couple of times and he survives. But I think if he's going to cover this line, there's some value there. So don't play this under 1.5 rounds. It seems very square to me. And yeah, MMA guy, plus 135. It's just a no-brainer. No-brainer. Sure, I think, people see Barlow KO'd by Sam Peterson and it's like, oh, both these guys are finishing upside. It just makes no sense to me. All right, let's move on. Oops. Just turned off my topology by accident. Alrighty, Bruno Silva versus Song Park. So I have a bet locked in. And on this fight, I haven't locked it in yet. I just finished tape, and I actually think this might be my second bet that I'm going to lock in. I might even lock it in as soon as I get off the show. So this one right here. Basically, there's still questions about Hyung Song Park. Some of them were answered when he fought Tetsuro Taira. So we definitely know he's not that level. He's nowhere near title challenger. He got pushed in the main event against Taira short notice, and he got ran through. He didn't have a second of a moment or a success in that fight. Got dropped, got taken down, got rear naked choked. So we know that. He's 29. He's not a prospect. But is he ranking potential? Is he maybe a top 10, top 15? Is he not even that? That should be answered here because Bruno Bulldog Silva he's a very tough fighter. He is, I don't know if he's still ranked, but I believe he should be. I believe he should be at least towards the bottom 15. He's got one-punch KO power. He's very tough. Manuel Karp and Joshua Van, just finished him near the end of their fights, but they were dropping him much earlier. Cody Durden almost got him out of there in round 1, so he's insanely durable, but the cracks are starting to show. At what point does this guy durability just wane and he can't handle like 7 to 8 knockdowns anymore? So we'll see if Park can handle that kind of power, right? His best win up to date is Carlos Hernandez, who, props to him, he hurt him and he submitted him. That's quite impressive. But Hernandez has been cut. He's not UFC level. He's never been physical. He's always been finished in his losses. Shannon Ross again. Song Yuk Choi on road to UFC. That was a decent win. It took him till the last second to get that rear naked choke. So yeah, I like it doesn't go to this decision here. It's basically a Park. I don't think he's ever won a decision. Let me just have a quick look. He has back in the day, 2018, but he's coming to swing, right? He's got that elite rear naked choke. He's got power. He's dropped and hurt other dudes. He's dropped Shannon Ross, but he's hurt Carlos Hernandez. He swings. Some of these regional fights, he's got power late. He's got this brutal knee KO, 3 minutes 40 seconds. I remember that one. He put him out cold. So he's got that finishing upside, and then we have Bruno Silva that just hits like a truck. He one-shotted Cody Durden. He's swinging against these guys. He hurt Tyson Nam, who has an iron chin, and then he rear naked choked him. And he's also been arm triangle choked back in the day by, what's his name? Kali Taha, who was on all the gear in the world, on all the supplements. But he got dropped there multiple times and choked out. So, yeah, this is basically, I reckon both these guys can kill each other. So I think the doesn't go should be maybe minus 200. So I'm going to lock that in. I'll see what the best line is. $1.70. I don't know what that is. And the reason I'm not doing the under 2.5 rounds is because, Joshua Van, he knocked him out with 1 minute to go. Manel Kape almost went over 2.5 rounds. Just going to keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. And Park also has, I think against Choi, a rear naked choke that went over 2.5 rounds as well. So doesn't go the distance, just one. One unit for now, we'll see. MMA guy, I've debated Silva inside the distance. Yeah, I mean, that correlates. I think both can die, so we'll get some questions answered here. Breaking Bad boxing, lock it in, Zaddy. I will lock it in. And Breaking Bad, the new addition to the Big Brain MMA Discord. I've been trying to get him in. The man is in. We're trying to take that boxing server to the next level. And the man is adding some stuff to the NFL server as well, so good on him. Thanks for being in the chat, Breaking Bad. Alrighty, Charles Jourdain, Davy Grant. I haven't taped too much of this fight. Davy Grant, I looked at his fight with Vera, and it should be taken into consideration. Chito Vera is the last guy to beat the crap out of Davy Grant, right, before he went on his streak. After that, both of Davy Grant's losses were controversial splits, to Marcos and Yanez. So we'll talk about Chito Vera later, but yeah, and he's beaten, Tavares at Pick'em. He beat Blackshear as a massive underdog, and basically I didn't go too much into tape. I know what I'm going to like. It's going to be dog or pass. I'm not playing Charles Jourdain at minus 200. And I think just, people are just drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. He submitted Victor Henry, but in that fight, and he's the first person to submit Victor Henry with the guillotine, which is just insane. His submission of Ricardo Ramos means nothing. We just saw Khan Offley, rear naked choke. Ramos is the biggest flake in the game. Kron Gracie, whatever, lost a split decision to Sean Woodson in Canada. Now, that wasn't a split decision. I think Sean Woodson thoroughly outstruck him. So, to me, he's just the same old guy. Right? I played Gene Silva against him, but back when you could still get Gene Silva at close to underdog money. So, yeah, this is dog or pass for me. But the reason I haven't looked into it yet, the line's not going anywhere. People don't really seem interested in Davy Grant. People seem to want to time Davy Grant's demise. I don't know, man. I think Damon Blackshear is a much better win than Charles Jourdain. So I don't think there's much takedown risk from Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain just wings hooks, and yeah, man, it's a dog or pass, but I haven't looked into it. I'm just thinking about Canada. I'm thinking about how when Davy Grant does lose, it's a controversial split. We could see that here again. So just dog or pass. Not overthinking it. Alrighty, Carl Nelson versus Matt Frivola. Actually, we're on a main card now, so I'm going to go through the comments. As my boy Breaking Bad says, like the video, leave me a comment. His Breaking Bad's dropping a play tonight. Let's go. And his NFL hit tonight as well. Beautiful. Yes. So Carl Nelson versus Matt Frivola. I do have my first play on this fight. Right. I locked in the under 2.5 rounds, close to minus 200, not necessarily just there. And it's a scary bet because Carl Nelson loves going over, right? Over against Padilla, over against Blake Builder, who's chinny, over against Doo Ho Choi, over against Jai Herbert. That's the fight where I lost like 2-3 units on the under 2.5 rounds. Similar price to this. And after that, I evaluated and I was losing thousands on unders, on totals, because I wasn't really evaluating the value. I was just like minus 200 for a 2.5. I like that. That should be 1.5. And then I'll put like 3 units. I wouldn't really see if I'm getting any value. And ever since then, I started to be more careful with my totals. and I became really good at him. So it's a scary bet, right? But ultimately, Carl Nelson, he can knock you out if he throws, and he's fighting a guy with the worst chin in the division, right? Favola, a year ago, knocked out cold by Farasiam, knocked out with a head kick against Benoit Saint-Denis in the first round. Didn't get knocked out by Drew Dober somehow, but knocked him out, so he also hits like a truck. Knocked out Otomar Zaita, Urchini, knocked out Gennaro Valdez, dropped him like a billion times. And yeah, it's just, you have to fade the worst chin in the game. It's in Canada. Surely Carl Nelson goes out there and swings. Terrence McKinney got him out of there in 7 seconds. So that's all it is. I don't really know how it's going to end. There's probably going to be a lot of grappling that's going to make this under sweaty. But basically, I locked it in because I felt that price should have been the price of a 1.5 rounds. And you can see on Bet Online, they've actually changed it. So last time I had that feeling, it was Campbell versus Noble in Perth. And I pussied out, and I ended up locking in Campbell instead. And then old mate Noble finished him in under 1.5 rounds when I was like, man, the 2.5 was the same price, but I didn't lock it in. So when it's around minus 200 for 2.5, it just scares me because I always remember that Jai Herbert versus Carl Nelson fight. But I think there's value there, man. I think both guys can kill each other in round one. But my gut is leaning Carl Nelson round one knockout. I think he has better durability. The power is kind of a wash. I think Favola has worse durability, but he's gonna throw. He's gonna be more aggressive. So who the hell knows? He's also got submission upside. So Carl Nelson KO, I feel, but I played the 1 unit on the other 2.5 rounds. Alrighty. Cody Gibson versus Arichi Lang. Let me see what my boy MMA guy is saying. Damon not pursuing grappling after first was terrible. He should win that fight if he wasn't scared to gas it. Damon's a bit of a low IQ fighter, but so is Charles Jourdain. Alrighty, Cody Gibson versus Arichi Lang. Not really interested in anything in this fight. Personally, I like the under, gun to my head. I am not in the business of locking in a 38-year-old Cody Gibson. He's a good fighter. He's UFC level, but he's always had the issue of redlining. He redlines, he goes for the finish. You saw what he did against Damon Blackshear. He was winning that fight all the way up to round 2 when he wasn't, and then he got Kimura'd. Right, so he goes for takedowns. He goes for aggressive striking. He drops people. He just doesn't pace himself, and he doesn't have the cardio for it. And he becomes very hittable. He lost the Miles Johns fight just because he couldn't pace himself, and he couldn't stop making mistakes when he was doing the right things in the fight. And Johns ultimately weaseled him. So I'm not interested in his minus money at insane chalk. I'm also not interested in Arichi Lang because he's a 32-year-old one-dimensional Mongolian who has no defense. Right, he got one punched by Zahavi. He was getting hurt by Jay Perrin in round 3. I had Jay Perrin as an underdog. That was a very close fight. Jay Perrin of all people. And if he didn't drop Jay Perrin a couple of times, he would have lost that decision. So I just think he's like an old, hittable, washed Mongolian. And I think Cody really has potential to blitz him. Now, the reason I haven't played this under 2.5 rounds, and it's tempting me because it's actually pick 'em, unlike the other unders, is because Cody Gibson's never been knocked out. And Arichi Lang really, he has power, but who's he knocked out in the UFC? Literally only Cameron Else, who is just the easiest guy to finish. He is known to be a meme. And no one else. Not one finish for Arichi Lang in the UFC. And on the other side, he's also almost never been choked out. He has one submission. He has 3 submission losses almost 10 years ago. But he's had his back taken by Cody Durden, Jeff Molina, Johnny Munoz, and Raul Rosas Jr., and he hasn't been choked out. So, again, relying on Cody Gibson submission, not feeling it. So, technically, by process of elimination, if I like the under, I'm basically leaning Cody Gibson by KO. And Cody Gibson has some good KOs. He ran through Mando Gutierrez, who's in the PFL now. He ran through him with a flying knee. He hurt Brian Kelleher, whatever, who's just retired. He hurt Brad Katona. He knocked out this Louis Sandakis, who's a Canadian Greek guy. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? He must be some bum. He's 8-2 at the time, right? He's 11-3 now. 11-3, has some decent wins, right? And he has 2 losses to a 13-2 and 4-2, and they were by decision. So yeah, Cody Gibson knocked him out in 44 seconds. So Cody does have power. I've taped him many times. I think he can potentially run through, a Richie Lang who has no defense. So I might just go for the KO instead of playing the under, and maybe play Cody Gibson round 1, round 2 KO. Because when he hunts for a submission, he couldn't even submit Chad Ellinghanger, right? I had like 3 units on him there. He submitted Brian Kelleher, but that's, Kelleher loves getting submitted. He had the back of Miles Johns, couldn't do it. Yeah, so that's it. Let me just have a look. What's the Gibson KO? I'm feeling another overhand right. He even hurt Damon Blackshear in the first round. So I think someone said in the Discord that he had an interview where he said he's gonna redline it again. Wow. Cody Gibson KO, $7. It's paying better than a Richie Lang KO. What's Cody Gibson round 1 KO? Lads, brace yourself. This is going to be a... What the hell? Cody Gibson round 1 is the same as his KO. That's not right. That's not right. Let me check Bet365. That must be a glitch on this KO price. Wow, round 1, 7. Round 1 is $7, but his KO is $7.50. That just makes no sense to me. I'm confused. That seems like an error there. Cool. That scrambled my brain. I guess just play the KO then, because it's the same price as round 1 and you can get in round 2 and round 3. Yeah, but that's where I'm at. I like that. I might put $100 on it. Alrighty. Really scrambled my brain for a second there. Manon Fiorot versus Yasmin Yuzdavicius. Cool. So, great fight for women's standards. I did not realize that Yasmin was 36 years of age. That's crazy. So, essentially, I get why this line is where it's at. Manon, she can stuff takedowns. She beat Erin Blanchfield 50-45, stuffed every takedown almost. She almost beat Valentina, stuffed most of her takedowns, actually took Valentina down. And she could be the champ right now. I get it. But ultimately, I don't know if she's going to cover this price, because Erin Blanchfield is no Yasmin Yuzdavicius. Erin is just extremely non-physical. Her wrestling sucks balls, and her striking's, whatever. Rose Namajunas, Manon dropped around there. Caitlin Kaminara, she dropped around there. Jennifer Meyer, she dropped around there. She was taken down. Ultimately, I do think this is a tough matchup for Yasmin, but I think her striking's improving. You saw the Moira Berno Silva fight. That was an easy fight for her, because Moira Berno Silva has no takedown defense, basically pull guard. But Yasmin tested her hands there, and she was out striking her. And then she mixed in takedowns, when she was ready. So, again, Moira Berno Silva doesn't really have good striking defense either, but she's improving. Now, I taped the Tracy Cortez fight, and I knew that it was going to turn me off. I play on Yasmin, of course. But man, Tracy Cortez, I was paying close attention. Her boxing never looked better than that fight. Back in the day, she used to strike with Justine Kish and used to get dropped in her by Justine Kish and go to a split decision. But in this fight, man, she was pull countering Yasmin. She was pulling out left, right. She was jabbing her. She was fainting, pulling out shots. It was like, I've never seen Tracy striking look as good as that since or before that fight. So that was insane to me. So obviously it was UFC Noche. I think she was really up for it. And it's just like, yeah, I get Manon is this karate chick, and she has great 1-2s and she's fast. But I don't think she can strike the way Tracy Cortez boxed that night. She's mostly just going to spam sidekicks and stuff. So yeah, it's a clear dogger pass. I don't see Fior covering this price at worse than -200 in Canada as well. But I'm not locking it in just yet. It's, Yasmin is a bit of a meathead. She's a bit of a meathead, but even if she does get a takedown, we saw Tracy Cortez stand up. Manon will stand up as well. So I'm thinking, do I wait for round 1? Do I wait for Manon? I'm just not rushing it. I don't want to. There might be better ways to play this fight, but it is a dogger pass. Let me just have a look at the potential handicap spread, which I don't usually like, but yeah, Yasmin handicap is It's minus money, $1.61. Not the best, but it's a bit disgusting. Maybe that's better. Alrighty, let's move on. Let's move on. Marlon Chito Vera, Ayman Zahabi. Crazy that Vera is an underdog here. But I guess he was an underdog to old mate Davison Figueiredo, so no surprises there. But wow, who would have thought? Basically, my gut is telling me that Marlon Vera might beat the piss out of Zahabi. Zahabi is a weasel. There's probably going to be some similarities with him and the Davison Figueiredo fight. He's going to stick and move. Honestly, Zahabi 30-27 Pedro Munoz, right? And Marlon Chito Vera, he had a very competitive fight with a washed Pedro Munoz. It's just the type of fighter that he is. And I thought I'd like Chito, and I kind of do still. My gut is telling me, but my eyes are telling me, I'm forcing it and just leave it for live betting. I see this whole narrative that, Chito was washed, burnt out, and now he's going to try harder, and he's sprinting so he can start quicker and all that. But, I've fallen for interviews before. I'm just going to see how he comes out. And we saw in the last fight with Zahabi, he garnered some of my respect, man. He pressured Aldo end of round 1, all of round 2, all of round 3. He ate some shit in that one. He had like 2 soccer kicks and just got up and started putting on Aldo, and he won that fight. And it's like, he's a weasel, but he's not a weasel because he doesn't have a chin or doesn't have cardio. He can fight. He fought like Chito Vera in that fight. He put it on Aldo and almost broke him in round 3. So he can fight Chito Vera's fight. I don't know if Marlon can break him like I thought initially. But yeah, I'm not going to force this fight. If I gun to my head, I'll play Vera. I could argue that Vera should be 60% or 55% based on the fact that he's younger, he's more durable, and he has more finishing power. Right? And he was a guy that contested for the title, even though I personally don't believe he ever should have sniffed a title shot. What's his best win being Rob Font, a washed Dominic Cruz, washed Pedro Munoz. Like he never deserved the title. So, yeah, I know he beat O'Malley, but I'm just kind of whatever about that fight the first time. So, yeah, I just feel like the gut is telling me Vera, but I'm passing. Kevin Holland, Mike Malott. This is an interesting one. Interesting one. This is the other fight where the under is 2.5 rounds, and it's a similar price to the one that I locked in. Carl Nelson versus Matt Frivola. So I haven't locked this one in yet, but honestly, the more I tape it, I feel like Mike Malott has KO upside over Holland. Holland always had an iron chin, but now you're just seeing him, eating shit from Michael Page, getting buzzed left and right. He's getting hurt badly by Daniel Rodriguez, D-Rod, who always had that sneaky power, and he's always had bad defense. Like, if you're going to keep getting hit on the chin, like clean, you're going to lose, right? Also, he used to have like really good submission defense, like elite. And now he's just getting run through more and more, comes out, whatever. Roman Dolidze, just a rib injury. Renan Derrida, just a sub 5-minute mauling on the ground. Like, man, I could easily see Mike Malott taking him down and showing him the business on the ground, arm triangle choke, doing some ground and pound, like doing what he did to Magny, but actually finishing him. Just because Kevin Holland, who the hell knows with him, right? He might guillotine him, he might drop him. He hits harder than D-Rod, in my opinion. Like, the way he put out Charles Radke was beautiful. So, but also, I can see Kevin Holland knocking him out. That's why I played Charles Radke over him as a decent-sized underdog. And yeah, that looked like a bad bet. Mike Malott showed to be a level above Charles Radke, who's been good to me, so I kind of felt like I had to play Radke again there as an underdog when the unders were great price. So I feel like the under here, man, they could both cash. And even in the fights that didn't cash, Gunnar Nelson, Kevin Holland should have knocked him out in the round 1. He was beating the crap out of him, saved by the bell. Vicente Luque finished him, submitted him, right? It's not easy. He's the first person to submit Vicente Luque. We saw Alvarez go for a DAS, and he defended it. So he's not an easy guy to sub. And when Kevin Holland locked it in, and Kevin Holland didn't even hurt him. He slipped and he jumped on it, and he was so tight. So He submitted him. Maybe he can submit Mike Malott. I wouldn't be surprised. And even Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez dropped him multiple times, and he almost knocked out Daniel Rodriguez. So I think this under, man, this under has to be a play. But again, it's hovering around that minus 200. It's a bit disgusting. It's like, am I getting any value on it? Who knows? Who knows? I have to do more tape on Malott. I actually didn't watch the Charles Rodker fight. Trevin Giles, I'm not really fussed about that fight, but it's funny how they gave him the most finishable fighter in Trevin Giles, and there was not even a sniff of a finish. He was happy just to strike there. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if he took Trevin Giles down, he would have submitted him. MMA guy, 3 units on Malott. Can you tell me why, my friend? Tell me why. You're a brave man. I get it. I mean, you're probably going to say, Kevin Holland's washed. He's not trustworthy. You'd probably say what I said. He can be taken down. He can be knocked out. But yeah, it just feels a bit crazy. 3 units. Alrighty, Rene DeRita, Brandon Allen. I would be crazy if I didn't tell you that I'm tempted. I'm tempted on Brandon Allen. I played RDR versus Whitaker as an underdog, and it's basically because I never thought Whitaker was that good. He was always fragile, and obviously he's a little bit washed now as well. So, Rene DeRita, if he didn't eat that big overhand right, I think he would have looked much better favorite. But he toughed that fight out. That knee to the body is brutal, and he's just elite. He's elite on the ground. Basically, I think Brandon Allen is a tougher matchup than Whitaker. I think he's in his prime. I don't think he's washed. I don't think he's chinny per se. I think his striking is a lot more dangerous at this point of the game than Whitaker, who just likes to throw jabs to the knee and 1-2s and overhand rights. I think Brandon Allen has got underrated power. And the issue is he's just stupid. Brandon Allen, he hurt Marvin Vettori in round 1, goes for a takedown, gets reversed. Right. Could have easily beat Anthony Hernandez, gets reversed. Hurts Anthony Hernandez, goes for a takedown, gets reversed. If he does that here, and he's obviously going to do it because that's what he does, I think Rene DeRita is better on the ground. I think he's going to reverse him, and I think he's just going to get a better position and stay on top, and Allen will throw away that round. Right. Even in his fight against Chris Curtis, who took it on short notice in a 5-rounder, he was one little variance, one random hamstring injury away from losing to short notice Chris Curtis in a 5-rounder, who's just a boxer and nothing else. So he makes these errors, Brandon Allen, but ultimately it's a dog or pass. I'm not going to jump on Rene DeRita at minus 200 now, after he was an underdog to Bo Nickel, Robert Whitaker, even Kevin Holland. He was an underdog to Kevin Holland. So yeah, I do think Brandon Allen, if he just comes in with a semblance of composure, like he did in the Muniz fight or some other fights, he can win this, or he can keep it competitive. But ultimately, it's a dog or pass at the moment. I think Allen can crack him. I think he can hurt him. I think he can potentially get on top, get his back. He'll have a back and forth scrambling fight, kind of like a GM3 fight, kind of like the Anthony Hernandez. But I think Rene DeRita is smarter and a better fighter. But you never know. This could be the fraud check. I just get this feeling this could be the fraud check. Because if Robert Whitaker was any less gassy and any less washed and fragile, he would have won that fight. Maybe Brandon Allen can win that fight. So yeah, dog or pass for me. And if I'm going to play DeRita, I will live bet it. Alrighty. So I'm going to go through that. I'm going to go through all the leans and bets I like, and then I'll give you my KSW bets as promised. So, Croton Lisboa, I mean, it's Croton if I had to play it, but I'm not really interested in anything. Bokaev, Balaguri, not really interested in anything. Stephanie Luciano, I think she should win this fight. Maybe the handicap, minus 3.5. It's Pick'em. I think she's live for a finish. Kyle Prapelagrudo, but I like the over 2.5 rounds here. I just have to watch Kyle's fights against those strikers. Campbell on the regionals to see if he was hurt or anything. See exactly how good his chin is, but yeah, I think this extends. Danny Barlow, Santos, I think Danny Barlow could potentially knock him out. KO is plus 130. The under is minus money, no brainer. Bruno Silva, I'm going to lock in the doesn't go. I think that should be minus 200. Charles Jourdain, David Grant, Dogger Pass. Matt Frivola, Nelson. I had the 2.5 rounds. I think you could potentially end 1.5 rounds. Carl Nelson, KO. Cody Gibson and Richie Lang. I'm going to play Cody Gibson, KO, $7 for sure. I'm playing that. Manon Fior versus Jasmine Dujvicius, dog or pass. Marlon Vera as a hobby. I'm leaning Vera. I'll see, do I lie bet him or not? Mike Malott Holland, I'm leaning the under 2.5 rounds. And the Rita, Brandon Allen, dog or pass. I'll lie bet the Rita if I have to. Alrighty. KSW, this is where it's at. So, this is my first play. Kacper Pazowski. This guy is a 6'6" Polish giant. I call him the Polish Budai. He comes forward. He's very slow. 6'8", not 6'6", my bad. Comes forward, very plotty. And he's got some nice hands, some nice combinations. And he pressures you. He pushes you against the cage. He goes for takedowns. Unlike Budai, he actually goes for takedowns. And then he just finishes you on the ground. Right? He takes people's backs. He flattens them out. And that's scary from a 6'8" guy to flatten you out and then just pounds you out. He's fought only bums, but the guy that he's fighting is also a bum. Right? Then there's Gorniak. I played this guy once in his KSW debut. He's a very athletic, short Polish brawler. He's like Sean Jordan. If anyone remembers Sean Jordan, he knocked out Derek Lewis with a sweet chin music back in the day in the UFC, and he always does backflips. Ex-NFL player. And basically, in all his losses, he's been knocked out. Right? He lost to this guy in round 2, Lucas whatever. And I bet him against Marek Samachuk, who is doing well now. He's in Ryzen. He made it to the final of Ryzen heavyweight tournament. But Marek Samachuk used to be a bum. And he basically took a couple leg kicks and got injured, and he fell down, and then he got knocked out in under 3 minutes. And I basically think he's a brawling bum. Then I faded him against Turinsky, who's a kickboxer. I just felt like he's going to get knocked out again. A couple of leg kicks. But unfortunately for myself, Turinsky is a white belt. There's a lot of kickboxers transitioning to KSW with no ground game. And he was just avoiding the fight, took him down, mounted him, finished him. I should have known, but yeah. This fight, sure, Kacper is a bit hittable. He's a bit lumbering, just like Budai. In this last fight, I found a highlight, which went into round 2. And he was taken down himself by another short, stocky guy. But he got up, and then he took him down, and then he mounted him, and he finished him. So I just think this. I locked it in to pick him. I give it 60 to 65%. I think he could be competitive, but I think the 6'8" guy who actually has decent striking, he's just going to come forward and he's just going to swamp Gorniak, who's a brawler, who doesn't really have a semblance of a MMA game. And all these fights, see all these wins, they're all just like one strike, one kick, and they're just like tapping out, like ineligible records, like basically fixed fights. So yeah, this guy, I think this guy is actually got potential at heavyweight. So I have a unit to win a unit, a little bit more, 660 to win 600. I would play up to 65%. Let me just have a look. There's a bookie, a Russian book that I have that has totals in KSW, and the under 1.5 rounds is $1.30. So that's all you need to know. They basically think this is not going over. There's no chance it goes over 1.5 rounds. All right, let me just tell you. Implied probability, 65%. Yeah. So I'll play this. I reckon this Kacper can look minus 200. I basically think one takedown he could finish him. So that's what I have. I have one unit there, and then the other play I have is Bartosz Kurek versus Adrian Dudek. Dudek is basically a bum. Kurek, I played him as an underdog in his KSW debut. I couldn't believe the line. He knocked the guy out with one punch. He's very responsible. He sticks and moves, circles around the octagon, and he has power. And Dudek is just a bum. He's been knocked out before in round 1. He's just like this ape, gassy ape. 7-4 record, 34 years of age. Like lost to Dominic Hamburger, lost to Jadula, whatever. Yeah, he's just not a good fighter. Alexander Ilic, this is a Serbian fighter. He's not the greatest, but he just ate a head kick and died. So, yeah, I think I played Kurek at better than minus 200, a unit and a half. The line got smashed now, unfortunately. But you can probably parlay him. I'm looking to parlay him with someone. I'm still taping this card. There's a bunch of things I like. Maybe potentially Haratic, the guy that beat Bukayev. Bukayev's last loss. He should knock out Lesko. I need to tape the main event, but that's where we're at. Marshak might have some value. They're two strikers. I think they're similar level, but Marshak's an underdog. Tobias Lee, Labez, this is a really competitive fight. Can't get a read. And yeah, Pavlik, Juracek, competitive fight, can't get a read. So yeah, there you go. I think play the 6'8" Polish giant, and you should be Gucci. Just locked in. Shower podcast for the win. SC for all. Thanks for locking in, mate. Make sure you DM me pictures from the shower. Alrighty. Thanks for listening. Good to be back. I'll try to do more regular shows, but you never know with newborn. And we're going to smash October. Peace out. Like and subscribe.